we're calling this session implications. And when you have an implication of something that is a paradigm or is a given, it's something that the way something works. When you comprehend the nature of how something works, there's implications to it. So any true paradigm, any true law, this is a natural law that we're talking about at this conference. This natural law has what you would call a true paradigm has true implications, but they're not choices. They're not something you have to make be real. Let me give you an example. We have a document that we prepared called implication. We call it implications, not. We put big emphasis on not applications. Okay, and there's a reason for that because we're wanting to take it out of the realm of human beings, that this is a divine law, not a man-made law, not something that we do, but something that we that is pre-existing. So something that pre-exists is it takes us out of the formula, and it makes it it makes it divine consciousness, divine thought, divine mind. So, and that may seem like a small thing, but it matters to us. To us. So we wanted to say something more about it, and I wanted to give you an example. Let's say, I don't know if you would know about this, but for thousands and thousands of years, it was assumed that the Earth was the center of the solar system, and that the sun was a planet. So the sun rose in the east, set in the west, and the Earth seemed to be completely motionless. And so the assumption was that we're the center of how everything works, and the moon was the first planet. The moon would be the first planet. It wasn't a moon that just revolved around the Earth. It was the first planet because all the planets revolved around the Earth. See, so the sun was a planet for almost all of human history until like 400 years ago. And so the sun being a planet, whenever it was discovered that we're the planet and that we revolve around the sun, it just blew people's minds. It was just like a shakeup of tremendous proportions, and it had an effect on human beings, a tremendous effect, and it because it was true, everybody had to reckon with it as it already was, and it had always been that the Earth was a planet and that the sun was the center, and that we couldn't change it. Even though it looked like we were orbiting, or that the sun was orbiting us, we're actually orbiting the sun. And that flip-flop changed everything. It was such a shakeup that it's attributed to the end of the Dark Ages and the birth of the Renaissance. So it had a tremendous impact on science. It changed astronomy. It changed the calendar. The calendar before that moment in time had always been wacky. They had never been able to predict exactly the length of a year. When they realized how the solar system worked, that we were the planet, they nailed the calendar. So the calendar quit being wobbly, because the calendar would drift, and every few years they would have to convene the Pope or the Caesar or the ruler at the time would have to convene their scientists and say, what are we going to do? The calendar's off again, and the harvest time is off. So they would drop a few days in the calendar, and so they would have to actually say, okay, for the next like from now till the end of let's say for the rest of November, tomorrow will be the 1st of December. We won't have the rest of November this year because we have to go through a calendar adjustment. Well, people were like, wait a minute, that's not good. My birthday is. You
Keeps you younger that way if you don't have your birthday.
Yeah. Everything's fouled up. Change it some other day. Well, the other people on the other day would complain. So they could not figure it out. Now, it never occurred to them that they had the wrong paradigm. It was a paradigm problem. It wasn't anything else. The paradigm of an Earth-centered solar system did not exist. It never existed. It never will exist. But the illusion was that the Earth was still and the sun was rotating around us, which still seems like that today, doesn't it? I mean, it doesn't feel like we're spinning at thousands, like we're spinning at 17,000 miles an hour right now.
That's what I say now.
And it doesn't seem like it just seems we're absolutely motionless.
It's like we're doing well.
And it doesn't seem like like we talk about the sun rising and setting still, but it actually doesn't. We're turning towards it and turning away from it. But it's odd to say that. Like we still have the remnants of the old paradigm with us. So we talk about the sun rising and setting, but it's not rising, it's not moving, it's stationary, and we're moving. That's the truth of it. So that's a great example of a paradigm shift that happened for humanity, and we all had to reckon with it. And it was a really big deal. Like it didn't go over well. There were places in the Bible that had to be changed, or they didn't change it, but they had to realize that they had like 17 places where it was said that the Earth was the center of the solar system. Well, that wasn't true any longer. That was very upsetting. There was astronomy was changed, but they also knew how to predict the length of a year. Like they now know that every other, you know how we have leap years now?
Sure, 4 years.
Every 4 years we don't have we don't have a day in
February.
February.
Extra day in February, 29th.
So, but that just leaves us a little bit off of how the solar system actually works, such that every other 100 years we don't have a leap year.
Well,
In order to really finally attune the calendar to exactly the way the solar system works. If we drop it, if we don't have a leap year every other 100 years, then our calendar is perfectly situated to be spot on forever, according to the solar system. So we had to adjust our calendar to fit the way the solar system worked. That was really helpful for us to get that sorted out. Without that knowledge, without that paradigm, without that comprehension about how it actually worked, we would still be with a drifting calendar right now. If we went back before Copernicus, the calendar would be drifting. So I'm just using that as an example that knowing the way something actually works is a great benefit, because we can align ourselves to it rather than us making it fit our predictions and expectations. We have to align ourselves with the way it really works. And there's something about the principles that is that revolutionary that I believe is all we have to do is align ourselves with how this works. We don't have to make it be any different than it already is. It already works this way. We're already in an experience of this. The use of these principles is perfectly predictive, and there are implications to that. Just as any true paradigm would have true implications. So we wanted to sort a few of those out and just look at them and see what they might do for us. Getting our mind right, getting our mind in coordination with how the system actually works, rather than us thinking we have to make it happen. It's already at work, it's already true, it's already in place by divine law, by the nature of how we function, and we don't have to make it work any differently. But we can align ourselves with it. So aligning ourselves with how something already works is different from making it work better for us, or feeling like we've got something to do with how the system is set up. It's already preset. You see? Does that make sense?
That's a question.
Yeah.
This example and the same thing with the earth being round and flat,
Yes.
the same type of example. I'm having a hard time with this because it's a preconception of what really wasn't true.
That's right.
So, let's say you're afraid because you can fall the end of the earth because you can roll this straight,
Right.
and you can fall. So you're afraid of that. That's a belief that is really not a true belief.
Right.
Let's say you're really standing at a cliff and you're falling, and the mountain did end or whatever, the bridge did crack. So
Yeah.
that's very different. I'm finding that a lot of examples that are being given are examples that could really be, if you try hard enough, they can be interpreted to good. Let's say the one that you were discussing before, that she was busy with the baby and he thought that she was busy with the baby and not with him.
Say it
The
again.
example we had last time in the last class,
Yeah.
that he thought that she was busy with the baby and not forgot about him, right?
Right.
So that
Right.
could be interpreted as good. It's his child and she cares about the child. She's exhausted. But suppose, let's say she would be not busy with his child. Suppose she'd be in a different relationship, let's say.
Right.
Suppose something more concrete that you can say that possibly she didn't mean to, or she's going to try and she really wants to, or she could. And suppose she would lock the door on him. Let's say she said that he didn't even realize that she did open the door. Suppose, right? I think
Right.
something that's definitely bad. It's not like a debatable issue. It's not a debatable thing. They fell over the cliff. It's over. It's not they're thinking they might fall off. They are falling. She fell. He fell.
Right.
Whatever it is. I'm finding a lot of examples that are being given are things that, if you try hard enough, we could interpret them to good. And if you want to be stuck in a bad place, we could interpret them to bad. But then there are most life situations which are really, like for real, they might be at the point where you reach the end of the rope where it's really not good.
But
And they can be interpreted to possibly they might be, you're thinking of it wrongly.
But the power to interpret is what we're talking about here. It's not that because if you really look, if you really study it and think about it, it's the power to interpret it and call it bad or good. That power rests with us. It's not resting on the nature of it being bad or good. It's bad. The badness or the goodness has to do with our thinking and our
Choice?
well, it's hard to even say choice. It's more like our
Framework?
our paradigm. We have a paradigm of thinking. We think about things because you go to a different culture, you go to a different person, you go to a different family, you go to China, or you go elsewhere. They have different thinking, and so how they see it, that our perception is framed by our thinking. It's not framed by how something really is. So when we're talking here, we're making that point, and it does something for us to know the truth of that. It does something for us as thinkers to know that the way we, specifically, the way we feel is not determined by anything other than the way we think. It's not determined by some other goodness or badness or rightness or wrongness about an event or circumstance or situation. It's determined by our thinking about that situation. And that's a law. It's not arguable. It's just a fact. It's
You
just
mind if we do a personal example and see if we can play that out?
well, I thought you just did.
No, but like the details. Yeah, is that okay?
Okay, all right.
Because I've been familiar with the principles for a couple of years, and I have somebody that's really, I can't apply any of it. Like, it's not helping me, put it that way. I know that I should be enlightened, and I know that I should let it go, and I know that. But I can't, so for a number of years, my sister's been in a marriage that's been problematic, and I always had a fear that's going to break up, but it actually did. So and now there's a lot of issues going on,
Yeah,
and they're in court, and the kids, and all that stuff.
great.
So there's debt, and there's crazy addiction, there's kids who are,
Could everybody hear her?
No, I can't do.
I'd like it if you could take them into account when you're talking
Yeah,
so
sure.
that
Yeah.
they could really,
I'll say
You know,
it really brief.
when I answer you, I'd be answering it for everybody.
Okay, yeah, sure, please do. I'm just giving as an example. I'm
Yeah,
trying to
But
incorporate it.
just take them into account.
Okay, so,
Maybe start it over again,
Yeah, okay.
just to make sure that they
okay, so I
follow.
was dealing with situations for many years, that my sister was in a difficult marriage. So I always tried helping and doing this and that and, dealing with different issues that were involved. But at this point, it did break up a couple of years ago. So the fear of it happening actually did happen. So it wasn't like I was thinking it was going to happen. The cliff ended, so to say. And at this point, the kids were kicked out of yeshiva, and they actually were court mandated now to go into public school. And they're from kids, they're Jewish children, they wear a yarmulke. And so you're dealing with kids who are crazy at home, who are with a father who's not religious, with a mother that is religious, and a tremendous amount of legal fees that has put them in debt. So thinking to myself that they're not in debt, thinking to myself that they don't need money for today, like $20,000 now, or that I just got a phone call that the kids need to be picked up from school and taken to the CLA, and it's not helping me. Like I'm not in the thoughts. I feel as if like, what are they going to tell the CLA today, and what's the lawyer going to say today if she
Right.
doesn't get the $20,000, and what's the
Right.
court, and what if they don't show up tonight to the movie that they're supposed to go to, because we don't want them to go to this movie, or, so it's not like, and there's always a new thing that's happening that, if I think I have it down pat, it's getting progressively worse, the story. So it's not like, okay, I got it, and I'm just thinking about it, it's not really happening, or it's really happening, and it's getting progressively crazy.
Okay, so what I want to respond is that we're not saying that that's not happening, that you have to think, that your thinking makes that happen. We're not saying that, right? I mean, what does your thinking have to do with their divorce? I mean, we're saying that, okay, they are separating, all these things are going on, the kids have to go to a different school. But how you feel about that?
I feel like physical pain.
You have physical pain.
Yeah.
Okay, so you think, you have, when you think about that, you think painfully, and I'm not saying you shouldn't, I'm just saying that the fact of the event doesn't have the power to determine your pain, because there are other people in this situation that might have more pain, right? There are people that might have less pain. There are people that might not have any pain at all, that have anger or resentment or whatever, that the way they feel about this event will not be, it's not possible that it's being determined by the circumstances and situation. The circumstances of the situation, we're not saying it's not happening. We're saying it is happening. So here's a little diagram, and this helps people think about things. And on these lines here, we can write, would it be proper to say they're getting a divorce?
I wish. Way far from that.
What would I say?
There's a tremendous amount of upheaval.
There's upheaval.
And friction and constant developments that intensify the friction.
You take everyone together. It's just hard for me to hear. So there's
Constant upheaval,
right,
which is intensifying
right,
and creating a situation with the children that's wrecking their lives and they're acting out.
okay,
So everybody around them is dealing with a lot of craziness
right.
and a lot of monetary debt and a lot of...
Well, can we just take one example? Let's
Yeah,
just say,
sure.
so let's just say there's monetary debt. Let's just say that. There's debt that wasn't there before. Yeah, there's new debt, new monetary debt. Now, if you, in order to help you think about what the point of this that we're making here in this conference, we would say on this in this chart we would put monetary debt. Let's say it has a number on it, like whatever number. It doesn't really matter. Monetary debt, and over here we would put monetary debt, but exactly the same thing, but in the way you think about that debt. It's not that the debt has the power in and of itself to determine exactly the amount of pain that you feel, because rather it's how you think painfully about the debt that determines the pain that you'll get. If it's the debt that has the power to go through the air and determine your feeling, then you're a victim of the debt. That's not true. The truth is, it's your thought about the debt that determines the way you feel. I'm not saying you shouldn't feel that way. I'm not saying.
I'd like to not.
Well,
That's my question.
Well, but if you see if you see that it's not, the power isn't vested in the debt, the power is invested in you to think. I'm not suggesting what you think, but I'm saying without thought on your behalf, without your using the gift of thought, that pain would be different. Now, earlier, and I think you were in here, but I gave an example of somebody said something to me yesterday, and it upset me. And I was So somebody said something, and I was over here, I was thinking about it, suffering probably like you are. And I was, so I said I was outside in that I just had this on my mind. I didn't know what to do about it. I didn't like what this person had to say to me about it. I had a lot of personal thinking about this person that was here at the conference said. All of a sudden, it occurred to me, the question occurred to me, am I outside in? Meaning, does it look to me like the feeling, so here in this little diagram, and we're going to go over more of these in a moment, but in the way this diagram works, it says feelings are coming from thought in the moment, here, which is true. And here it says feelings are coming from somewhere other than thought in the moment, which is not true. But sometimes we think about things that aren't true. Sometimes we suffer things that aren't true. There's something about human beings, if they could see the truth of what it is, which I saw last night in the middle of the night, it occurred to me, the question occurred to me, am I outside in about this? And that question might occur to you. You might ask yourself, am I outside in about this? Meaning, does it look to me like all the feelings that I have about this?
What means outside in? What means outside in?
Outside in means the impossibility. It's not possible, but because something isn't possible, we can still believe it. We can believe something that's not possible, and we suffer. So outside in means that there's something out there, there's something that is determining my feeling without my thought being involved. That's not possible. Yeshem just didn't make it such that people would be made to feel a way that they don't think. He made the universe such that we get to live in the feeling of our own thinking. There's a freedom there, the beautiful freedom there. When we don't believe in that freedom, we suffer. And when we suffer, we ruminate, we dwell, we worry, we get things on our mind and we go over them and over them and over them and over them. Like, how many times have you thought about this?
So we have to believe that the thinking is nothing, or we have to believe that.
You have to believe it's nothing. You have to believe that you're being made to feel a way that doesn't have anything to do with
Even
you.
I think it's nothing. But even if it comes in, it doesn't have to hurt me, that you mean to say.
That the way you feel is not coming from the way you think. You have to believe that the way you feel is not based in the way you
No, it's
think.
not coming from the way you think.
The way you feel is coming from the way you think. You just said something the opposite of what
You have to, I think I'm saying it correctly, but let me, hear me out. You have to believe in an impossibility, that the way you feel has nothing to do with your thinking. That's not true. The way you feel always has something to do with your freedom of thought. It doesn't, it's not set up any
When you
other
say you have to
way.
believe,
That's a belief. It's not true, but it's a belief.
so you have to believe even if it's not true.
we have
I
to
don't
see
get
it. We don't believe it. Is that true? I
It's
don't
a-
feel like I'm believing in the belief. I see it as a truth from observing it.
But something that is true requires no belief.
That's what I'm saying.
It's not
not a belief,
belief-based.
fact.
It's not a
It's not a
belief.
belief.
It's a fact.
It's an awareness to the fact.
It's a fact. It's just the way it is. It's not based. It's not a belief-based fact. It's a fact-based fact.
Last time you told me you have to believe, you have to know that even if you think, it doesn't have to do with you have to know that the reason why you have pain is just because you think. The pain is not always true because it is. It's just a thought. And if you know that, that helps you. That's what you told me one time. That if you know that the pain.
But knowing, in that case, what I was referring to though is that knowing is not a belief. Knowing is it's a certainty. It's not a question. It's not a belief. You don't have to believe that the universe, you don't have to believe that the solar system is sun-centered for it to be sun-centered. It's already sun-centered. It's always been sun-centered and always will be. It's not a belief-based fact. It's like once we knew how it worked, it really helped us. It really helped humanity. They could change their calendar and we could get on with other problems, but we don't have a calendar problem anymore. Up until 400 years ago, we had a chronic calendar problem that was unresolvable because we didn't have the right solar system. We were basing our calendar on a fictional solar system.
For me, it helps last year because you told me that not always when you have pain, it's real. Sometimes it's just the thinking, but it's nothing. You could leave it. And that helps me a lot. You told me last time if you know that the pain that you have is just thinking, but doesn't mean it's, and that helps.
But do you understand that that when I was using the word knowing is different from belief? And what I said, knowing is not belief. It's true.
Right.
And it's not up to you to make it true. It's true anyway. It's true already. It will always be true. It'll never not be true. Now, that's the level of significance
The
of.
only question I have, let's say a teeth hurts you. You want to go to the
When you're
dentist.
talking physical pain versus emotional pain, I've always wondered about this. You know, there's two kinds of feelings.
If you want to go to the dentist and it hurts
Physical
you,
feelings, not.
and the car took you to the dentist, let's say he has a flat tire, whatever, and he didn't come to the dentist, it hurts you for 2 more days. It's very hard to say that don't think or thinking makes it bounces. Think.
But I'm not saying don't think. I'm not saying anything about what you should think about. I'm just saying that without thought, there's no experience. There's no reality. This is our link.
Tangible things too, I feel cold blowing on me.
Say again, I'm sorry.
What about tangible feelings? I
Physical.
feel cold blowing on me, just like I have a toothache. I feel heat blowing on me. So it's only because I think I'm feeling heat, someone else will take out a thermometer and go, yeah, it's 90, it's not 60.
Yes, without thought, there's no reality. There's no existence. There's no thought is your means to know God. Without thought, you would have no ability to know God. You'd be in a just a blank state. There would be no existence without knowing, without thought, like a vegetable. But it would be even more so. There would be no. It's hard to imagine because it's such a fictional idea of not having the capability. I'm not saying that you should think differently, but I'm saying that thought and these principles have a critical importance to all of us. They connect us to life, and without them, there's no experience of life. There's no reality. There's nothing. And that's the only paradigm that makes us, that gives us our proper place in the universe. Without that, we're lost, and we conjure up things, and we make up things that have powers that they don't have, that determine our suffering, and we lose our way. So this is really important for our welfare, and so I want to talk about some of the implications of that truth, just to go through them and just hear this. Let's just think together for a little bit about some of the, since that's true, or because that's true, that thought is a part of our reality, and we can't have reality without it. Well, what does that mean for us? And how do we, okay, and how do we contrast that with it not being true? If we can look at the truth of that, what would that mean if that wasn't true? So there's an inside out view, or an inside out a way to look at this, and there's a way that's outside in. Okay? So there's implications, and I'm sorry, I was going to have this on a board, but they didn't, they couldn't get it here. So I'm going to read some of these, all right? And I just want you to think about it. Just take it in, think about it, see what there is there for you to comprehend. So this first one is called flat earth thinking, okay? This pertains to you. So what I'm saying is that flat earth thinking is believing a system works in a way that it doesn't work. It's a belief that it works in a way that it doesn't work. Now this kind of myth is alive and well in our culture today. So there's things that we believe in that are not true, but we believe them anyway. And they cause us problems. And if we could correct our belief and get it in line with the facts, we would be so much better off. It would be unbelievable. Number one. So flat earth thinking, inside out, so I'm saying is, flat earth thinking is what is rendered obsolete. When we realize something is not true, or even possible, it's not even possible, we're less tempted to think about it and believe it's relevant. You don't even give it any further thought. Our mind is therefore quieted because you're not entertaining something that isn't true, or believing something that isn't true. It short circuits your reactions and ideas about it, and you find yourself quieter, feeling less at the mercy of it. It's quieted through subtraction of the obsolete thinking we no longer believe in. Like, for example, let's say you you hear a noise in your house or where you live, and it sounds like it could be an intruder or something's wrong somewhere, and you go and investigate, and it's at night, and you shine the light, and you find out the wind is blowing, and there's a branch in the tree that's brushing against the house. As soon as you see, oh, that's what the noise is. That perfectly explains the noise. It's got nothing to do with all those other things that you were afraid of or you were concerned about. That explains it. You can go back to sleep and fall back to sleep and sleep like a baby. As soon as it seemed, as soon as you know the cause of something you're experiencing, it takes all other alternatives off your mind. Everything else is eliminated. Now, if you believe, though, outside in, if we're fooled by flat earth thinking and believe it to be true, this thinking will preoccupy your mind. And it exponentially multiplies. Like you might lay in bed and you think, oh, that could be an intruder, and if I take the light down there, they'll see me, and then they'll know where I am, and things will go from bad to worse. I'm just going to stay here and pull the covers over my head, and maybe it'll go away. And you can lay awake all night hoping that it goes away, and it doesn't, because it's not an intruder, it's the wind.
Is this considered flat earth thinking?
Yes.
But suppose it is an intruder. That's my question.
Well, let's say it is. Let's say it is.
Suppose
But
if you're thinking about it, you could undetermine it by that it's a wind, right? But suppose you get up and it's an intruder and he has a knife.
doesn't matter.
Same thing?
It doesn't matter, because you still have the principles. The way you're going to experience the intruder and reckon with it is all. You're all equipped to do that. The principles are in order, and will give you the thinking you need to deal with it. Now, what this does is it takes the fear out of your thinking. The fearfulness of your thinking drives you crazy. It makes you ruminate, it makes you fear things that you don't really know. You get obsessed about that, you worry about that, you get frightened by it. It takes the fat out of your thinking. And your thinking gets lean, and it's just relevant to what's up and not anything less or more. And when you're mentally, and that's what we would call mental health. Mentally healthy people have intruders. They do. Sometimes they do. Maybe even often they do. Mentally healthy people have all kinds of different things happen to them. But the thing that they don't have is a lot of extra thought about it, a lot of spinning and ruminating, dwelling, and upset, and bother, and fear, and doubt, jealousy. That's what they don't have. They don't have. If you take that out of your head, you can deal with life.
Have it, take it out. Take
A
it
lot
out.
of mental people have noises. They hear noises, a lot of, and that's a big problem.
Exactly.
Take it out by
So-
what? Saying abracadabra?
Yeah, abracadabra. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, honey.
So would you say that if you do find yourself ruminating, would you say that's a clear indication that you are outside in, that you are believing, that your experience is, that's where you are, that's where you're believing?
Yeah,
Is that?
I would, because
You're good?
if you're ruminating and dwelling, and you've got something that you're tossing around and around and around and around. Your rumination is not, it's not mentally healthy. There's something fearful that your own mind is not, you're not dealing with it such as it is. You're thinking about what you don't want it to be there. I want it to go away. I have wishful thinking. I know that it's something, but I want it to be something else. Well, please don't let it be that. So you wish, but when you're wishful thinking, you're caught in there's a suffering there. So I would say yes.
But what if you really are still in danger? There's an understanding also that fear and pain are gifts to us. They indicate something is wrong, run, take precautions, be safe. So sometimes that quote-unquote ruminating it's healthy. It makes you say, wait a minute, let me just make sure I handle this the right way. Should I call 911? So I'm not sure ruminating is really always the right word. And there may actually be a danger out there, and continuing to think that way is what's going to actually keep you safe.
I want to emphasize, though, that there's a lot of thinking that we suffer. There's an old poem that says, I've suffered many terrible things in my life, and most of them have never happened. And that's what I'm wanting to help you with. I want to help you with that. Like if you have something that that healthy people can deal with what's up without getting mentally unhealthy. Okay? That's all I'm saying, is that there's a way for you. Now, sometimes I get mentally unhealthy. I'm saying that I do. I can tell some story after story about it. But I catch it. I can see, oh, that was all me. I made all that up. I had all that on my mind, and I suffered through it. And now I see that it was thought that was making me feel that way, not that thing. That really helps me, and it will help you too. So let me read another one, because we want to make sure we get through these. So, sorry?
There's one application about
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, but I'm not going to do it next. I'm going to
You're not doing everything, right? You do one more?
we're going to
Let's
do
let her get
several
through.
more.
He's trying to tell us that
Keep going.
Yeah.
I'm trying to let her know what's the...
Separate realities, all right? I'm just going to read this. Inside out. When we see what's up, how things are, we do not waste time being dismayed that others do not think like us. This puts us in the position to respect and embrace diversity rather than be annoyed or afraid of it. Okay? We understand, I actually cannot have your thoughts. And you actually cannot have mine. As much as I may think it would be better if you would think like me, it can't happen. You have freedom of thought, and so do I, and that's the fact of it. And knowing that fact does something to get you out of the presumption that you can put your thoughts into another person, and then they'll feel like you. They have their own thoughts. If you're a mother, how many of you are mothers or fathers or parents? You know your kids have their own thoughts, right? I mean, you just after a while you begin to realize they're on their own with their reality. I can talk to them, I can suggest things to them, but I understand, I have to respect that they're on their own with the way they feel about things according to their thinking. If you do that, you find yourself better able to listen and communicate more and more effectively. Outside in, when you believe in the outside in way, that's not, it doesn't work that way. Separate realities aren't obvious to us. When others do not think like us, we think there's either something wrong with them or us. This illusion creates unnecessary, further outside-in thinking. Well, why don't they think like me? I told them the way they should think. They didn't get it, maybe I should yell it the next time. Or like we get into a lot of extra thinking about why others don't think like they should, like us. Or why don't I think the way why don't I think the way others tell me I should think? What's wrong with me? So those lead to a lot of rumination, obsession, an unquiet mind is the nesting place for thoughts that are not true, and people suffer that. A quiet mind has a chance to deal with reality without it being contaminated and without it being unnecessarily burdened. So then we stay trapped in the illusion that we could or should think the same. You do this with your kids, you do this with your husbands or your wives. You realize that you can, you're in a position where you can ask questions, you can talk to them, you can make suggestions, but you don't get so tangled up in judgment and annoyance, frustration that they're doing what they're doing. And without that, you get a chance to really be a better parent and a better maid. Okay, let's do another one. So there's 8 of these.
Where is this from, Dr.? Where is this?
Where's it from?
Yeah.
It's from a handout that we wrote.
Are we able to?
Could we buy this? Could we
If-
purchase these books?
It's not available for sale yet, but if you want a copy, and you leave me an email that I could email it to you, I'll email you a copy of
What's
this.
your email, please?
What's my email?
What's your
You just leave me your email.
Oh, leave yours.
Yeah.
Not you just said email you.
Yeah, no. You leave me
It's
your
already-
email. You leave me your email, and I'll send it to you.
Thanks.
I know a lot of parents, they want the kids to think like that. And they have fights. And they didn't realize that maybe the kid thinks different.
They do.
Oh, a lot.
They just do.
40 years.
I know.
I know people.
I
They
know.
didn't realize that kids sometimes
And-
have different minds.
And it's not they could do that until they die, and they're trying to do something that's not possible.
I know somebody the last 4 weeks before he died, the father, he said to the children, now I realize that everybody's different.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Well, I know. It's such a waste. Like if you think about, just think about how much mental energy is on this planet is eaten up by that one thing. It would be unbelievable if we could kill that.
I know.
If we could just take that off of people's minds. Like my mom used to say, if wishes were horses, beggars would ride. She would say, you're a wishful thinker. Don't, you know, and she was trying to tell me something about wishful thinking, but it just caused me so much difficulty. Let me read you another.
You have to learn the hard way sometimes.
Well, it's true, but are we really learning? You know, like, do we have less wishful thinking now than we had 100 years ago? I don't know. I don't
think
know.
so. I've learned to let go. I've learned to let go of my kids. You know, like they haven't, you know, they're not so all like, you know, they're not like me.
Yeah.
They're beautiful people. You
Yeah.
know, and they just have their own directions.
Yeah. But see, I can tell, like, you listen, like, I can tell by the way you get that. And your kids have benefited from it. Just by the way you are. I can look in your eyes and I can tell.
Sometimes people need a third party to explain. Sometimes it's never gonna work, only if a third party comes in.
That's true. Sometimes a third party can be
Be
helpful.
both, could understand both.
Let's let Dr. Blevens keep going. We're gonna miss half the slides, and we have minutes on already.
Yeah. The future's an incomplete equation. All right? I'm going to say that. In thinking about the future, okay, so we all think about the future. In thinking about the future, inside out, we know we do not have a complete equation. So when you think about the future, you know you do not know what thinking will occur to you in the moment of the future. You don't know now what thinking will occur to you tomorrow at this time. You don't. So the truth of that, you spend less time imagining future scenarios. Okay? This is not saying don't think about the future at all, but it is saying that when we do think about the future, we know thinking in the moment will always be missing. When we get there, we cannot know now what thinking we will have in the next moment, which is really nice, because it takes future thinking off your mind. But if people believe that it doesn't work that way, they just get into thinking about the future all the time.
At the expense of the present.
Yeah. This being reality, we're surprisingly unburdened. Like when you look at mentally healthy people, they just don't suffer the future the way a lot of people do. They just let it show up, and they see what thinking they have as they have it, and they're a little bit bewildered by the fact that that other people are fearful or worrisome or dreading. Like when you have dread is a terrible thing. You feel negative and you feel dreadful about the future, and it takes a toll on you, and you don't really. It's an unnecessary toll. It's not a toll it's not an expense that's necessary. It's an added expense that you're affording that you don't need to spend. Outside in, we think we have a complete equation when we think about the future. We imagine scenarios, create expectations, and spend time thinking about them as if they were true. This detaches us from reality. We also try to talk others into believing them too. We get disappointed, afraid, and upset when our imagined scenarios do not come true. Okay, a couple more. We can handle the truth.
That's the title of this one?
Yep. Inside out. When we know our feelings are coming from thought in the moment, it eliminates other false possibilities. It narrows down to one moment in time, the present, where we consciously experience feeling is being created through thought. We experience no misunderstanding or separation between us and the logic and wisdom of the inside-out paradigm. We do not feel insecure. We can handle the truth. You know, when people face the truth, and there's a great reckoning within people that they draw upon, and they don't resent it, regret it. They face it. Outside in, we think something other than thought in the moment can make us feel in a way we do or do not want to feel. We inevitably feel insecure. We cannot handle the truth. We turn to wishful thinking, sticking our heads in the sand like an ostrich, or just repetitively thinking the same thing over and over. So, who's got the power? We understand the inside-out psychological paradigm. We are not bound by the circumstance or the past. We're not saying the circumstance did not happen. Like this is to your point. We're saying the circumstance did happen. That's the story. That's the situation. But it doesn't have the power to dictate how you feel. You have to think to feel the way you feel about the circumstance. The illusion is not the circumstance. The illusion is that the circumstance has the power to determine how you feel without your thinking being involved. That's impossible. Your thinking is involved with the way everybody feels all the time. Only thought in the moment can give us an experience of the circumstance. There's nothing else that will give you experience of the circumstance other than thought in the moment. Outside in, when we believe the outside in illusion, it appears as if the circumstances have the power to dictate how we feel. We seem to lose our psychological freedom and safety. We forget we are experiencing the power of thought in the moment all the time. There's no other place to be.
That's what I was saying.
Inside out. There's one specific place in time we can experience thinking, creating, feeling. It's not in the past or the future. This only exists in the present moment. It only exists in the present moment. There's one place to look to see that your feeling is coming from your thinking. There's truth and insight in this present moment. Once we experience the value of this insight, we will find ourselves in the present moment more often. You sort it out, you realize that's the place where I could really look to see where my feelings are coming from. And I don't have to look anywhere else. So it narrows it down. You don't have to look in the past or the future or in other causes. There's one place to look to determine why you're feeling what you're feeling. And you'll see that it's your thinking that you're having in that moment. It's as if you finally have a practical reason to be here. So you get a, again, these take things off your mind. When you're in the false outside-in misunderstanding, we get focused on and attached to something other than thought in the moment as the source of our feeling. Nothing else that's determining it but thought in the moment. But we go with our imagination and our fantasy. and that leads us to trouble. We are preoccupied away from the present moment, and we seem to lose our freedom and our resilience. You can't really lose it, but you get so paralyzed and so overwhelmed by looking in the wrong direction that it seems like you're losing it. So the big subtraction. Inside out. As outside in misunderstanding is seen for what it is, it naturally falls away. It naturally goes. It's not true. We're left with secure, not fearful thought and feeling. This is the big takeaway. This is what mental health is. It's the economy of less on your mind. The less on your mind of outside-in thinking, the better you're gonna function. Guaranteed. We find ourselves living in an inside-out world of deeper wisdom, where feelings of love, compassion, gratitude, quiet-mindedness, respect, humility, and an inner strength reside. These are not a list of things to try to do or accomplish. These happen to us naturally when the outside in falls away as logical or possible. We will naturally live a more loving and better life. Outside in, when we believe in the false outside in explanation of where our feelings are coming from. They're coming from over there, they're coming from this situation, they're coming from, God knows, all kinds of different places. We consider many different reasons for why we feel the way we do. Our minds work overtime and repetitively, and it leads to rumination and all these busy-minded symptoms. We're looking for a feeling that registers as true, and truth does not exist in the outside in. You're looking someplace for the truth that it doesn't exist. Shallow, fearful, insecure feelings are hallmarks of the outside in misunderstanding. Okay, one last one. Sometimes we see it, sometimes we don't. Inside out, we begin to catch sight of how deceptive the outside in illusion really is. We see that we're sometimes fooled by it, and sometimes not. Everyone gets fooled by this deception. In this way, we're all in the same boat. It's illogical to judge and criticize others because they lose sight of the inside out, just like we do. So if you see that you get fooled by this, and you get completely fooled by it, then who are you to stand in judgment of someone else who gets completely fooled by it?
What do you mean by completely related?
You believe that your feelings are not coming from your thinking in the moment.
You're not aligned at that moment.
And that happens to you. It happens to me. It happens to you too. If you see the truth of that, you don't want to be a hypocrite. You're not saying that, well, they shouldn't have that happen to them. It happens to me regularly, but it shouldn't happen to them. Well, that's a little foolish to believe that you're guilty of the same thing they're guilty of. So who are you to be judgmental? So it takes away this basis of judgmentalism and opinions about other people because it happens to all of us. That's a really truthful thing. It's just true. We're capable then of being honest about ourselves. We stop judging and we start listening and communicating. Outside in, we're fooled by the deception of the outside in and innocently forget to factor in thought in the moment as the source of our feeling. it honestly seems as if what we are thinking about has the power to dictate how we are feeling. It doesn't. It does not. That's a fiction. We do not purposely lose sight of this. This has been the greatest deception in the history of humankind. It's so common and it's so frequent and so terrible. It's at the root cause of all of our mental suffering that people do. It's a tremendous cure right here possible for us to slay these dragons of what's the true cause of our feeling. And it's nothing other than thought in the moment. We do not purposely lose sight of this. It's been the greatest deception since the beginning of time. I really believe that. And it will cure all sorts of maladies. Like those kids, I showed that little video of those kids. They were starting to see, whoa, this thing, it wasn't just that it helped me from being angry, but it also helped me to read better. It helped me to study better. They were shocked and surprised at that. The moment we lose sight of the inside out, we lose the chance to be honest